I'm reviewing this morning, Bart Ehrman tells a story. Bart Ehrman says he's in Chicago, and when he was in school, and he was walking down the street, and there was a car flying by him, and a woman was in there screaming help. It was very clear that something was wrong. So without thinking, he runs, he catches the car, he opens the door, she slides over, he slides behind the wheel and realizes that the car has no brakes. And so as he's going, he's approaching Michigan Avenue. Now, any of you that know anything about Chicago, Michigan Avenue is not the place you want to have this kind of problem. So someone else on the street notices that the child is screaming and assumes the kid has been kidnapped and jumps in the car too and tries to take the kid out of the car. So the question is why are we moved to help people when we don't even know who they are?
Well.
Why? My spiritual topic this morning is, and you shall love your neighbor as yourself. The radical commandment, altruism. Altruism is the selfless concern for the well-being of others, often sacrificing your own needs at the time. It can be described as unselfishness, if there is such a word, unselfishness. Now, there are always boundaries in these situations, but we do want to talk about intention this morning, our intention to care for our neighbor. Why are we moved by compassion for people that are in tragedy? It's a wonderful thing that we do. We experience people who are dealing with fires, or they've had some devastation in their life or some illness, and we seem to be moved, and we're moved to care for people, and we don't even know them. This morning, I'm reviewing the book by Bart Ehrman, Love the Stranger, How the Teaching of Jesus Was the Moral Conscious Direction of the West. Now, he is a historian who was an evangelical Christian and is now an atheist. So he has gone through his own spiritual pathway. So we're speaking and talking from someone who is looking at this from a historical perspective, not a belief perspective. So Jesus' teaching introduced a new universal obligation to care for others outside of our immediate circle. And it would take centuries to take hold in the West. In one chapter of my life, I worked for the Sisters of St. Joseph of Peace. And I love these hell-raising sisters. Those girls did not get along with the local bishop. Let's just put it that way. They were just hell-raising. And they had this history because in 1890, two of them left Newark, New Jersey. I understand why. They left Newark, New Jersey to move to northwestern Washington to start a hospital for the loggers in a community that had no hospital. Now understand, this is 1890. This was before Medicare. This was before Kaiser. This was before any insurance plan. And the sisters begged for money and created their own insurance plan to care for the people in the community. Why would a bunch of women beg for money to care for other people and care for them too, because they were also nurses? For the loggers, for the fishermen, and for the children and their families. Now, they had this legacy. You know, we have a legacy as a community. They have a legacy. Their starter was Mother Frances Clare. Now, Mother Frances Clare was an Irish nun, and she was clearly a reformist, and her zeal often got her in trouble with the church hierarchy. You almost know you're doing the right thing if you're in trouble with the church hierarchy, except for me. Why would these women raise money and care for people they don't know? the victims of disaster? Why do we think we should care for individuals who have experienced tragedy? Why do we think it is the government's responsibility to care for people who cannot care for themselves? Why do we offer forgiveness to individuals with no debt? We just forgive. And Bart argues that this is the teaching of Jesus, the unconditional love, the love your neighbor as yourself. Now, we often talk about agape love, unconditional love, that this is the love that God has for creation. The interesting thing about this teaching is it's agape toward God, agape toward yourself, and agape toward the stranger. It's unconditional love all around. Most of us are not guilty of that. Most of us have some places to go. Now, from history on past, the Greek and the Romans always talked, they were moral philosophers, of course. They emphasized generosity to family and friends. That's what they emphasized. And even in the Jewish scriptures, it exhorted to love the foreigner and the neighbor if they were joining your tribe. Jesus moved it further than that and said, no. There's this groundbreaking experience that is breaking forth that love even the people you do not know unconditionally and show this through acts of kindness. The implications of this radical idea in this commandment has been debated, misunderstood, and resisted by all kinds of people. However, it is this conflict that has created hospitals, hospices, schools for children, and advocacy for the poor, because it did not exist before it was spread in the West. So I'm not ignoring that there have been much tragedies and much abuse associated with some of these communities. But the issue I want to talk about this morning is intention, because it's all about our intention in life that transforms society. It's the intention. Sometimes we don't have the best outcomes, but what is our intention? But if we don't have an intention and we don't do anything, we cannot expect anything to change. We just have to live with the way that it is. Now, the story of Jesus. Now, I try to understand Jesus in the context of being a Jewish teacher, because don't tell anybody, but Jesus was not a Christian. He wasn't. And I'm not really sure if Jesus tried to join the churches in America today that he would be welcome. Let's look at his profile. He was not married. He did not have children. He was homeless. And he hung out with a group of men who could have been considered deadbeat because they had left their families to follow him. Now, would you take him home to meet your mother? Would you take him home to meet your mother? But you cannot judge the book by its cover, right? And it's hard to understand how this radical idea can move a whole society of individuals to look out for individuals they don't even know. And I'm good with Jesus, and I am certainly good with Jesus' teachings. It's just some of the people that say they follow him that I have a problem with. Now, no one asked me, but I have a problem with a few of them, but that's not the topic this morning. But he taught all of us and gave us this clarity about charity, how to care for other people. And I've learned that Jesus taught primarily about how to treat others, not what you believe. Now, I was raised, it was all about what you believe and what you confess. And Jesus was very clear. If you want to enter the kingdom of heaven, make sure you take care of other people, including the stranger. This is this radical move, this radical commandment, because when you take care of people you don't know, you cannot expect anything directly in return. That is a transaction. So in the idea of social justice, to think that caring about a stranger is not a part of a belief structure is actually foreign to any one of these teachings? Of course we care. And if we think Jesus is easy on us, then it's because we don't know what he taught. Because actually, he was actually pretty hard on us. He was clear that all of the requirements, the recommendations, and the expectations that we have in each other as humans is impossible. But with God, all things are possible. Now, we use that term in every situation. With God, all things are possible. The interesting dialogue here, though, is about how to live and relate with other people. It's all about, of course you can't love your enemy. It's not easy to love people who have misused you. It's not easy to love people who have taken advantage of you. But with God, all things are possible. So lately, simply because of the news and what's going on in the world, I've been thinking a lot about this. And exactly what is mine to do in the world in which we live right now. But I realize that it is a lot easier for me to love people who are like me. It is easier for me to love people who look like me. It is certainly easier for me to love people who agree with me. But that's easy love, y'all. That's comfortable love. That's the love that really doesn't cost anything. But when you look at the world and our divided neighborhoods and our polarized politics, our fear of the other seems to escalate. And I feel this tug at me is, what is mine to do? The sense that Jesus' command to love thy stranger is not just a nice idea. It is the transformative methodology how we transform the world. It is a call. It is a challenge. It is a mirror of my own heart. And sometimes when I look in the mirror, I don't like how I think. But I know all I have to do is what? Change my thinking, and I will change my life. Because, to be honest, we all struggle with what to do and what we shouldn't do. Who should we punish? Who should we reward? Because the world in which we live requires us to put everyone in a category. Think about it. You're either safe or unsafe. It is us or them. They are worthy or unworthy. They are stranger or neighbor. And you have to know that once we decide it's an other, we often apply how much compassion they deserve in life. It is our judgment of the other. And it is easy for us to say they judge us. But what is our judgment of them, whoever them is? And Bart reminds us that in the ancient world, compassion was transactional. Now, this rather sounds familiar. Most of life is rather transactional, right? We do for others and we expect good in return. And if it doesn't come exactly in the place where we actually do the good, we feel like we have been slighted. It's our tribe, it is our kin, it is our circle that is important to most of us. But this teaching says, no. Love the stranger, love your enemy, do good expecting nothing in return. Now, you know what? This is not normal. It is not natural, it is not safe, but it is revolutionary. It is how society is transformed. And he teaches, yes, it is impossible to do these things, but with God, all things are possible. Jesus didn't invent compassion, but he certainly expanded it. He universalized it in the idea that everyone is our neighbor. And all of us know the story, right? A lawyer asked Jesus, who is my neighbor if I'm supposed to love my neighbor? And he tells the story of a man who had been beaten close to death, laying on the side of the road. A priest walks by, and the Levites walk by. And if you don't know what a Levite is, they were the choir. And the Levites walk by. So all the religious insiders walk by. But here comes the Samaritan, a stranger, an outsider, a rival. And this is the person who stops, cares for the man, cares for his wounds. That's not all he does. He puts the man who has been injured on his animal and takes him to an inn and pays the innkeeper to take care of the man that has been hurt and says, if there's anything left over, I will come back and pay it on my return. And Jesus says, so who's the neighbor? The priest, the Levite in the choir, or the Samaritan? Which one is the neighbor? And the answer is clear. It is the one who crossed the boundary, the one who is moved toward the pain. It is the one who loved the stranger. Are you guilty for loving the stranger? This movement, this idea of helping the stranger created hospitals, it birthed charities. It is the reason our community does not pay federal taxes, by the way. That's a whole tax exemption situation. It taught societies that the vulnerable were not burdens, they are the sacred in the community. That we care and want care for everyone, not just the people that we know. Jesus moves us, the teaching moves us from the circle of us to we. It changes our pronouns. And this truth continues to whisper to us. It has always been there. You were strangers in Egypt. Do not neglect the foreigner. I desire mercy, not sacrifice. And whatever you do to the least of these, you do to me. Jesus teaches us to widen the circle. And when you widen the circle, people are included that may not necessarily be just like you. That is the stranger. And that can be the coworker that you try to avoid, the family member that you disagree with that is just no good, the unhoused person that you pass, the immigrant that you don't understand, and the neighbor whose yard side irritates you. And the person whose pain you have never asked about. To love the stranger is to refuse to let fear be the final word. Love the stranger is the practice courage in small and in daily ways. To love the stranger is to see the divine image in every face. Now, here's the truth. We cannot individually fix the world, but we can certainly widen the circle where we live. In other words, you are the light of the world that you live in. Are you turning up the light? So as we leave here, hopefully we have a commitment to widen the circle of our love, to not shrink in our hearts, to not let the world harden us, to not let fear define what are our boundaries. We will be the people who will cross the road, the people who will move toward the pain. The people who will love the stranger because God loved us when we were strangers too. Yes. Love is all there is, and we are never, ever separated from the divine. But how do we practice this love in the world? When we love, we must also love the stranger. We must welcome those that are wandering. You can hold with you all that are unworthy and to reach out to them, because those that feel unworthy need love too. And when you see the lonely, reach out. When you see injustice, challenge it, not with fear, but with strength. Not with hatred, but with strength. Because with God, what? All things are possible. And so it is.